The flames roared behind him like a monster made of smoke and heat. A motorcycle lay crushed and burning in the middle of a quiet highway, black smoke curling into the blue morning sky. A bald biker wearing a leather vest lay motionless on the asphalt, and a young homeless teenager dropped to his knees beside him, trembling but refusing to run. At just 17, Cairo had endured hunger, loneliness, and fear, yet in this moment, none of that mattered. He ripped off his own shirt to press onto the biker's bleeding head and yelled, his voice cracking with desperation, begging him to wake up as the flames crept closer. This boy, forgotten by the world, was about to make a choice that would change everything. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and humanity, please like this video, share the message, and subscribe to Kindness Tales right now. Leave a comment saying, "Kindness lives," to support stories like this one. Cairo hadn't always lived like this. There was a time when he had a home, a family, laughter, but after his father passed away in a factory accident and his mother fell into addiction, life had thrown him into the streets like a piece of trash nobody wanted. He spent most days around the city shelters, always looking for small jobs to earn enough for a sandwich or a warm drink. He slept under bridges or in abandoned buildings, hugging himself through cold nights. People would wrinkle their noses and turn away from him, judging his torn clothes and aching bones without knowing anything about the heart beating inside. On that sunny day, Cairo had been walking along the open road, searching for discarded bottles or cans he could sell for a bit of change. The countryside was peaceful, the sky bright, birds chirping, and fields stretched out forever. He wished his life could feel even half as calm. Suddenly, the roar of engines approached, at least 10 bikers racing down the road like a thunderstorm on wheels. Cairo stepped aside, watching them pass, fascinated by their unity, their sense of brotherhood. They were loud, intimidating, and powerful, everything he was not, but then one bike swerved. A tire blew. The rider lost control, metal scraped against pavement with a screech. The bike tumbled hard, sparks flying, and both machine and rider slid violently before coming to a stop. The others didn't notice immediately, they were too far ahead. When the motorcycle burst into flames, panic stabbed into Cairo's chest. He didn't think. He just ran. The biker groaned faintly, but his eyes stayed shut. A large patch reading, "President," stretched across his back, and tattoos covered his neck and arms. Cairo knelt beside him, heart pounding, and dragged the injured man farther from the fire using every ounce of strength he had. Flames licked at Cairo's heels, and heat burned his skin, but he didn't stop until the danger was far enough behind them. He pressed cloth to the wound and kept talking to the stranger. "Stay awake, sir, please, don't leave." Footsteps thundered behind them, other bikers rushing back. They surrounded the scene, shouting with rage and fear. For a moment, Cairo expected to be attacked, blamed, beaten. But when one biker saw how the teen was saving their leader's life, they froze. The medics arrived minutes later, air filling with sirens and dust. Cairo stepped back quietly, ready to disappear like a shadow, as he always did. Nobody would care who he was. Nobody ever did, but one biker grabbed his arm gently. "Kid, thank you." Cairo had no idea that moment would echo louder than he could ever imagine. He slipped away before they could ask anything else and continued walking with shaking legs until he reached his shelter, a run-down place where the staff barely had resources and the homeless were stacked in rows like forgotten memories. Cairo sat on his thin mattress that night, replaying everything in his mind. He didn't know if the biker was alive. He kept praying silently that the man would wake up. The next morning, the shelter manager's voice broke the usual quiet. "Everyone outside, now." Confused footsteps shuffled. People murmured with sleep-stained voices. Cairo stepped out with the others and froze in pure shock. Nearly 100 bikers, leather vests, roaring engines, and black boots, lined up outside the shelter, blocking the street. Their motorcycles gleamed in the daylight like metal beasts waiting to charge. Neighbors peeked from windows. Children stared with wide eyes. It felt like a movie scene, intense and unreal. In front of them stood the biker Cairo had saved. His forehead carried a bandage, his face bruised, but he was alive, and his eyes were locked on the boy who had saved him. The crowd fell silent. He walked toward Cairo with slow steps, each one filled with deep gratitude. When he finally stopped in front of him, tears shimmered in the man's eyes. "You saved my life," he said, his voice rough from injury and emotion. "I'm Ryder, president of the Steel Wings Motorcycle Club. And this," he gestured behind him, "is my family. But yesterday, you became part of it." Cairo's heartbeat stuttered. He didn't know what to say. He felt tiny next to this powerful man who now looked at him with nothing but respect. Ryder placed a hand over his own chest. "I owe you everything. We all do." Suddenly, dozens of bikers removed their helmets and clapped, not loud or intimidating, but slow, filled with honor. Cairo blinked rapidly, overwhelmed. No one had applauded him in his entire life. Ryder continued, his voice swelling. "These men once believed strength came from power. Yesterday, you proved real strength comes from kindness, even when you have nothing. So we're here for you. From today onward, you are not alone." Emotion strangled Cairo's throat. His eyes filled with tears he never meant to show. Ryder turned to his club and nodded, and the bikers stepped forward carrying boxes, clothes, food, hygiene supplies, blankets, shoes. Then came a backpack full of school items. A brand new phone. And finally, one biker rolled forward a motorcycle, not new, but polished lovingly. "It's yours," Ryder said. "You deserve to feel free, kid." Cairo shook his head, stumbling back. I can't take all this." "Yes, you can," Ryder replied. "You gave me a second chance. Now it's our turn to give you one." The shelter residents watched with awe. Some wiped tears. Staff members couldn't believe their eyes. Cairo hugged himself, wondering if he was dreaming. For the first time in years, he felt seen. He felt valued. Ryder told him that the club had spoken to social services on his behalf. They were helping him enroll in a training program and securing him a small apartment. They wanted to ensure he had a future brighter than anything he had ever imagined. "You changed our lives with your courage," Ryder added softly. "Now let us help change yours." Cairo broke into tears, his body shaking. Ryder pulled him into a hug that felt like strength, warmth, and home, all the things he thought he lost forever. The rest of the day was a celebration. Bikers cheered his name. They shared food. They promised protection if anyone ever tried to harm him. Cairo kept glancing up at the sky, grateful for a miracle that arrived right when he needed it most. That evening, he stood beside Ryder, watching the sun dip behind the horizon, coloring the sky gold. "I was nobody," Cairo whispered. Ryder shook his head firmly. "You were always somebody. The world just needed to see it."